Hi, welcome to my daily live session on various topics for creating world class companies and exceptional leaders. And today, in continuation to what I spoke yesterday, I would be introducing to you the 2019 EFQM model, or possibly it's also known as the 2020 model, from what I had spoken yesterday. And before I get into that, let me just straight away start off from the beginning to give a very brief recap and then get into the topic of the day. So first, let me just make my slides visible to you so that it becomes easy. Okay, so I started with this slide on the contents of my talk or the series on mindset and culture for a change, for changing the mindset and culture, or to incorporate different kind of a thinking in the organizations uh, through mindset and culture change. And I spoke about chakras, mindset and culture, L2L systems, scoreboards, routine meetings. And now I am in the assessment topic of this particular series. So let me start off by uh, just showing you the slide on chakra. Chakras are basically the flows in an organization which are necessary for any organization to prosper. And these are similar to what we have in human bodies. Bodies is what I had analogically compared. Uh, Starting with the root chakra for robust basics, continuity chakra for prosperous partners, top down chakra for personal power, so that you can persuade people in going towards one outcome. Bottom up chakra for caring motivation, progress chakra for convincing change, growth chakra for perceiving the unseen, and finally the success chakra for sustainable growth. These were the 7 chakras that I had introduced. And after that, I explained each chakra in detail. You can look at my watch my earlier YouTube video on that. And then I went on to talk about the simplest form of maturity assessment is the 5S, which can be done by anybody. It's very easy. 5 levels of sorting, straightening, shining, standardizing, and sustaining. And after that, I went on to talk about the CMMI, structured assessment guide, a little more structured, much more than 5S, where there are 5 levels of initial level, managed, defined, quantitatively managed, and finally optimizing level. These are the 5 levels of CMMI, which also can be used and was used in a big way in all the software companies as they created tremendous leaps in the overall performance and the consistency in outputs, and reduce the total number of bugs in whatever development that was done. And then I introduced yesterday the EFQM model, which is the business excellence model developed by European Foundation for Quality Management. And after that, went on to talk about the 2 areas of assessment: one for the enablers, and then the other one for the results. And today, my topic would be to talk about the 2019 model first, and after that, if time permits, I'll go on to talk about the assessments. Assessment process is more or less the same. It is not much different, but in this series, I would explain the assessment a little more in detail than what I did yesterday. So let me start by trying to look at the 2 models. What you see on the left is the 2019 model, and on the right is the 2013 model. Maybe it becomes much easier if it's a little bigger in size. What the EFQM guys have done is that from the right model of differentiating the enablers and results, EFQM has differentiated, divided the enablers into 2 parts, basically, instead of 5, what you see on the right side. Basically, subgroup them, you can say, to direction and execution. This is very interesting, very, very interesting. First is you set a direction in a company, which is all about directing, all about creating a purpose, and all about creating an organizational culture, a leadership direction, and to really talk about a vision and a strategy. That is all about direction. Direction is all about leadership and strategy. And then comes the next one, which is the execution. Execution is all about making sure that you're getting the best out of the system, and making sure that whatever strategy that was evolved is going to be implemented effectively and efficiently, and making sure that whatever purpose that was chosen is realized with fluidity. That is what execution is all about. And in the execution, again, the 3 main criteria would be engaging stakeholders, creating sustainable value. That is something very, very interesting. Creating sustainable value, which possibly was to a great extent part of the processes, which really talked about trying to understand who are the customers of each process, and based on that, trying to see how the value could be created in the earlier model. And now it is called as creating sustainable value. And finally, driving performance and transformation. That is extremely important, right? Driving performance and transformation. Because whenever there is a purpose to be set in all organizations, irrespective of being a small one or a big one, always the current reality is not the same as what the future dream reality would be. So therefore, to reach that future deemed reality, always some kind of a transformation will be necessary, will be required. And that is what is being addressed under the criteria driving performance and transformation. Like I'd mentioned, what EFQM has done is looked at various companies and tried to understand what kind of practices do they have, which enable them to continuously succeed and continuously perform well. And that there has been summarized and has been what should I say, categorized and grouped into various categories or criteria, what they call it as. And these criteria are what are addressed in the EFQM model. Now, in the enablers, there are actually two groups of enablers. One would be the direction, the other is the execution. In the direction group, there are mainly two criteria, which is purpose, vision, and strategy, which is a combination of leadership and strategy to some extent in the earlier model. And the next one would be organizational leadership, organizational culture and leadership. How do you create a culture that is going to really, how the organizations create a culture that is necessary for achieving the end result, achieving the purpose. So these are the two criteria in the new model. And organizational culture and leadership also possibly originates partly from the leadership of the earlier 2013 model, and partly from the people part of the 2013 model. And the other ones would be in terms of execution, where the earlier enablers are fully covered. And the main emphasis here is to ensure that efficiency and effectiveness is achieved, and whatever plans are done, whatever strategies are developed or deployed without any problem. That is the basic idea of execution. Then, of course, there is a third element of results. Results would be more or less the same as what was there earlier, which would be the stakeholder perceptions and strategic operational performance. When I say perception, it's about feelings, it's about opinions, it's about impressions, and that is very, very important in achieving any outcome. And the strategic operational performance is all about the key data, key metrics, business results, and everything which is very much necessary for the business. And these two have been separated out and really emphasized. That is something which I like very much in the new model. And in the case of the enabler, which is enablers, which would be direction and execution, the basic idea would again be the same: approach, deployment, and assessment and refinement as the three fundamental pillars of excellence. One is to ensure that the approaches are developed and they're quite harmonious, aligned, and they're good and effective. And after that, they're deployed throughout the organization without any hindrance. And finally, based on the results achieved and the performance achieved, continuous assessment and refinement is being done. That is the idea of the enablers. And the same is applicable for the execution too. Whereas in the results, there are two different criteria. One would be the relevance and usability and performance. These are the same things which I had showed yesterday. I'll just go 2 slides earlier and then you can see that. These are the 3 things for assessing the enablers, which would be approaches, deployment, and assessment and refinement. And the levels for, and the criteria for assessing the results would be relevance and usability and performance. Now, it is quite interesting that, see, today we are talking about something which is quite complex. It is not something which is should I say, simple. A lot of effort has gone into this to creating this model. And therefore, I possibly feel that many of you may not be interested in what I am speaking today. This is definitely something which possibly is going above your head. But doesn't matter. I still want to talk about this because my assessment comes from 3 levels. That is something which is what I wanted to just emphasize on. Now I'll get back to the other mode so that you can see the earlier slides too. My assessment model for the chakras, I said the basic objective of why I'm speaking all this is because I wanted to show you what is my assessment model for the chakras based on the chakras which I've developed. And for the chakras to be assessed, one is there is something which is very simple, which is the 5S, which is easy, not difficult at all. Anybody can understand. Then the next one, which would be a little more structured, which is the CMMI model, which again is not that complex because people have been used to this quite regularly. Then the EFQM model, the older version, 2013, which is already in vogue for about 7-8 years now, and the assessment guide for the approaches, deployment, and for the enablers, which would be approaches, deployment, and assessment and refinement. And then the scale in terms of how it will be rated, whether it is really the particular practice is the company is not able to demonstrate that practice to the company having a particular practice which is recognized as a global role model. That is a level of rating that one would do for a company. And based on this maturity which would be rated, that is the maturity level which you see on the right side here, then the score would be given to the company. That is the basic model of EFQM. And then after that comes the next one, which is a similar assessment for the maturity of results, whether it is relevant and usable, and second is whether the performance is something which is consistent and predictable, and also whether there is a good amount of innovation happening from the performance. The people learning is happening, so there is a continuous what should I say, you can't use the word perpetual cycle, but again there is some kind of a perpetuality in the entire system, that there is a self-learning happening, self-running is happening. That is something which is important. And again here on the maturity side, starting from being unstable to unable to demonstrate to being a global model, 5 levels of maturity, and based on the level of maturity, the score would be given for the particular company. So this is what I had spoken yesterday, and today I introduce you to the model which is the 2019 model. The only difference is the characterization has changed, the way the grouping has happened has changed, and also I personally feel there is a tremendous amount of focus in the new model, because the action is very simple. You just have a direction. You say you want to go to, let's say you need to go to Mysore. So direction is Mysore, touch Mysore, or maybe go to where London. London as the target. That is the direction. And execution is how best you can go to London, or how best you can go to Mysore, or how best you can go to Washington, or how best you can go to Moscow, wherever it is, or how best you can go to Delhi from Bangalore. That is the direction, and execution is how best you can go. That's all. That's all business is all about. And then you check out where you are when it comes to going towards that direction. That is through the results, and then again keep correcting it. So it's a very simple model on the left side, which is very, very simple. You start with the direction, setting the direction, execute it to perfection, execute it for effectiveness and efficiency, check the results, and again change the direction. As simple as that. So that's why you see the arrow marks going here all around. So it's very, very simple. So this model, I liked it because in this case, there was too much amount of emphasis for processes, which meant that people are really simply trying to create processes in organization, make a process mapping department, and then processes are created. And it was really becoming very, very bulky. And because of that, many companies didn't see any benefit in doing that. You really do a lot of processes, a lot of documentation is done, but finally, what is the end result? Nothing much is happening. Whereas here in the new model, it is not the case at all. You are doing whatever you are doing to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of execution, which means whatever you do, unless it is making sure that the execution becomes better, there is no point in doing it. And that's something which is very, very nice that I felt about this. And in terms of the results, it is the same as what it was earlier. Only thing is it has been grouped as stakeholder perceptions instead of calling individual stakeholders as separate, like you see in the earlier model. And so that way it is quite, in my opinion, quite logical, quite closer to the reality than what it was in 2013. So with this, I'm sure more and more people would be interested in using this model for excelling in their respective companies. Now, what am I going to do in the next 3 days is what I'm going to talk about, and then close for the day today. I would talk about, maybe I just need to get back to the bigger slide. So tomorrow, day after, and on Friday, my intention is to talk about the assessment as to how it is done when it comes to direction, how it is done when it comes to execution, and how it will be done when it comes to results. And once this is done, then I come to the assessment of a business based on the business chakras, which I had explained to you earlier. So with that, I come to the end of today's discussion and today's live session. It may have been a little, what should I say, complex for many of you, quite loaded with content. So, but don't worry about that. See, for any EFQM model, I'm sure easily about my guess is about 250 to 500 experts would be involved worldwide, Europe-wide. with inputs from all the countries like India. India is also adopting the UFQM model. A lot of other countries are doing that. So I'm sure about 400 to 500 experts would be involved, and easily they would have met a couple of times. It would have gone through multiple iterations till the model has been accepted. So it's not something which can happen over a couple of seconds. So I've tried to explain to you in a very brief way, and with my understanding. Of course, my understanding is very limited, so therefore please pardon me. For those of you who are experts, if you watch this video, and do write to me at dinakar at samutana.com, and then you can please this is my email, dinakar at samutana.com. Write to me and let us engage in a debate, and let us see in what way we can get this concept of excellence elaborated and spread across the entire world, so that we become more directed towards progress. And once we have got progress, a lot of other things will take the second place. Today, why do you think so much amount of fighting is going on? So much amount of politics are going on. So much amount of indifferences are there. All this is basically because people are not able to really progress. Once you show progress, and one way of progressing is by giving popular, what should I say, goodies or popular schemes. But that is not going to make any progress. Progress happens through hard work, and humanity has been able to progress in a big way. So the main thing is to really get to know where do we stand so that we can progress further. And that's the reason why I've been talking about chakras, and then how would I do the assessment of these chakras, which I'll be talking about from tomorrow onwards. No, from possibly on Friday or on Monday. Let me see when I'll come to that level. So thanks a lot for watching. For those of you in India, have a nice evening. For those of you outside India, have a great day ahead. And looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, more or less the same time, on the new model EFQM way of assessing companies. Thank you so much. Goodbye.